So you want to buy a modular home or a mobile home on some land. What does that look like? What does that entail? Is it a good idea? Bad idea? That's what we're talking about here in today's video. I'm Carlos Colon with Georgia Permanent Homes. And thanks for tuning back in. Let's jump right in. All right, so you want to live in a trailer. You want to buy a mobile home. What does that look like? You know, what are the ins and outs, especially if you got to take out a loan, which most people do. So there's a lot of stuff you really need to understand about the loan process when it comes to how you buy property that is put on top like this, because it's not the same as buying what we call a stick-built or a constructed home on site. So it is not the same as a modular home. So a modular home is a stick-built home, but it's built off-site and brought to the site, put together, then put down. That is not the same as a mobile home, just to be clear. And manufactured home. Manufactured and mobile home typically go hand in hand. They're not exactly the same, but in the terminology we use today, for the most part, they're the same. Okay, so what to understand here? Okay, so the most important part is really the financing. So let's talk. FHA, can you do it? Yes. VA, can you do it? Yes. Conventional, can you do it? Yes. Even USDA, can you do it? Yes. And when we say can you do it, I'm talking about a mobile home that is on acreage. Okay, and I'm using the term acreage just blindly here, because it could be a quarter of an acre, or it could be 300 acres. Okay, yes, you can purchase them that way. The problem is that the requirements for the mobile home will be so strict that you have to be very, very careful on what will approve and what will not approve when it comes to buying this. So here are the things to know. Conventional is going to be your loosest restrictions on this. FHA is your next loosest, so to say, on criteria. The strictest are going to be USDA and VA on these by far. Okay. What else to understand? When it comes to the strict requirements, one of the most important details you need to understand is the mobile home has to have a retired title. Okay, and so that means that, like, you get the title to your car, right? And you can, whoever you sell your car to next, you sign over that title, then they're the owner of that vehicle at that point in time. Well, a mobile home has a title, but in order for it to be considered real property, that title has to be retired. What that means is it will never be sold by itself ever again. This now goes with the land. Okay, so it is real property at this point. The only way a mortgage company will write a mortgage on this is if it is real property. So the title has to be retired. That also means that it has to meet all the HUD criteria. So that means that it's got to have straps, it's got to be permanently affixed, it's got to have a proper foundation to it where it's not going anywhere and it's safe. Okay, so those are the main things to know here. So if it meets all those criteria, then at that point, yes, you can get a loan for it. But see, there's so much more. That's just the main step that says, yes, you can technically finance it overall. Now, here's the next part. How old is it? The problem with mobile homes is after 30 years, mortgage companies view them as, I don't want to call them worthless, but non-mortgageable, so to say. They're typically not willing to invest in a mobile home and put their money into something for a mobile home that is 30 years or older. That is so important to understand. That means that if you buy one under a conventional loan, for example, that's 25 years old, wonderful, you'll be able to do it. But guess what? On year 31, selling that means you have to sell it to a cash buyer. Okay, that makes things very tricky, because as we all know, the whole purpose in owning real estate is to be able to cash out the money to where you move to next. That for most people, right? So that means that now I can only sell this in cash. and that's the land and the mobile home. That's a problem because 95% of your buyers are typically going to be financing buyers. That means that they're trying to get a conventional loan or an FHA loan on this, okay? So VA's criteria is even stricter. VA, it cannot be older than 20 years. Otherwise, they will not do it. The other part is, of course, USDA. Now, I would have to check back on this information, but when I did USDA on a mobile home many years ago, they would not do it unless the mobile home was almost brand new. That was an issue. So you could technically buy one and have it installed and then get a loan on that after you retired the title. But see, the chances of getting that done, I mean, you have to basically buy the land first. No one's going to let you put that on their property before doing that. So there are hoops you have to jump through to make this happen. So just understand that that process is extremely important to get done right. And if you're getting a mortgage on a property with a mobile home on it that is 20, 25 years old, the time is ticking, and you need to understand what that means and what that looks like. If you're okay with holding on to that property no matter what, and then just maybe renting it or whatever you want to do, or sectioning that acreage off, right, and then selling that cash, and then keeping the other land, or selling the other land separately, that's okay too. So there's a lot of things that you have to know about this. Now, one of the most common questions that I get really have to do with like mobile homes on mobile home parks. I don't recommend that at all, and the main reason being is because in mobile home parks, when they say that they're selling the home to you, a lot of times they're selling you the title to the mobile home. And in most cases, they have this clause in there that says that you can't actually move that anywhere else. You bought it, but you have to keep it on their property, and you didn't buy any land on it. And so now you're stuck in a McDonald's position where you have to rent their land indefinitely in order to keep your mobile home on it. So even if you pay this thing cash or pay for it cash, you're still renting land in order to stay there. And so it's a very tricky situation. And as you can imagine, that means that you don't actually own real estate if that's the case, which means getting a mortgage for it, very unlikely. Okay, so it's important to really understand what that looks like. Retiring the title, that process can take a couple weeks to a couple months, sometimes years, depending on how tricky it is. So don't assume if the title is not retired that you can just automatically, hey, we'll retire this in a couple weeks, you can close it. I mean, in a perfect world, yes. In a non-perfect world, that's very, very sticky. Here's something that is very tricky to know about this as well. If the mobile home has been moved more than one time, so let's say it was bought brand new, moved to its first location, then it was purchased by somebody else and moved to some land and now it's for sale. The chances of getting a mortgage on that, because if it was moved more than once, is really low. And I don't mean like, oh, it's 30%. I mean really low, like 2-3%, and you have to go to some specialized people or some very, very local lenders that might do it in that case, which means your risk factor goes up, your interest rate is much higher, and again, reselling it is going to be a nightmare. And so you need to know these things when you're going into or considering going into a purchase for a mobile home product. So if you have any questions about real estate in general, or you're interested in buying or selling your home, please give us a call at 770-314-1285 or check out our website at www.georgiaperimeterhomes.com. Thanks. Bye.